Hi everyone, today we are going to use user authorization in our front-end application with the help of JSON Web Token, React Router DOM and Redux, and we are going to use Redux Toolkit to manage our state. Before diving into the coding, let me show you the workflow that what we are going to do today. So this is the React authorization workflow that we are going to code today. We are going to use React Router DOM, JSON Web Token and the Redux Toolkit to manage our state. So what happens in the application is that whenever user visits to any private page or the login page, first thing we will do is we will check whether accessJWT web token is exist in our session storage or not. If we do have a access token in our session storage, then we will simply redirect user to the dashboard page because they are authorized. If they don't have the accessJWT in their session storage, we will check whether they have the refresh JWT in their local storage of the browser. If they don't have that either, then we simply redirect user back to the login page so that we force user to log in to access to the private route. Otherwise, we protect the private route. And if they have the refresh JWT in the local storage, we need to make sure that token is valid. If the token is not valid, then we will remove that token from the local storage and we redirect user back to the login page so that they have to log in to get the access to the dashboard page or any other private route. Let's say the refresh JSON web token is valid, then we will fetch the new access JSON web token from server and we will update the state, and we will also save this new access token in our session storage, and we will authorize user to access the any private route, in our case the redirect to the dashboard page. That's how we're going to check the user authorization in our React application. And let's say if user logs out, then we need to remove the refresh token and the access token, both of them from server as well as from the session storage and local storage, and redirect user to the login page. That's what we are going to do today. Hey, if you are here for the first time, my name is Acharya from Dented Code. I create tutorial related to full stack web development. And if you are interested, then please subscribe the channel and turn on all the notifications so that you receive all of my tutorials. With that saying, let's jump into the computer. Okay, I have opened both the application, the backend and the front end here. So let me run both of the application. NPM start for the backend, and same thing goes with the front end. So if you have been following along, you should have all the code with you to start with this tutorial today. Otherwise, the link for those code is in the description below for the Git Repo. Okay, our application is loading now. Just to make sure our backend is working, let's quickly try to do login here. Send our login request. By the way, it's in the rest.http file. Okay, there you go. Yeah, it's logged in successfully. Okay, so let's go back to we don't need this application. I mean, we need the application, but just we don't need to code here, so you can minimize that. All right, so this is the application. The first thing what we're gonna do is, okay, in order for us to type our email and password every time we need to do testing, how about we set this login email and password, save as the initial state of this component so that it loads automatically every time we load this component. Go and find where is the form. So if you want to find the form, I mean, if you are just jumped in here, always good idea to go to the entry file, which is app.js, and go to the path, which is this one, just the slash and loading entry page. Go to the entry page or component, and here the entry component loads the login form. This is the login form, login.component. In here we have a local state called email and password. Let's pass the email as an email string and password is just the password, which is this one here. Okay, just minimize that. When we save this file, now we should have the email and password automatically loaded here every time we load the application. So now we don't have to do that every time we need to test login. Okay, so what's the problem we are solving today? The main two problems. Now we are not logged in yet. If we check in our state of the Redux store here, in our state you see login is auth is false, but we can go to the dashboard, which is not good, not right? We need to protect our private route for unauthorized users. So first, that's the one thing. And the other thing we need to do is whenever we log in, right, we are logged in. The logged in is true if we go to our state and check is auth is true. But if we go to now try to go to the login page, now we can go to the login page. Even though we are logged in, And if we go to our application, go to the session storage, see we do have accessJWT token, which we managed to store in our local storage as part of our previous tutorial where we did how to integrate login authentication in the React application. But today's task is authorization. The authentication and authorization are two different things. If you are not sure what is that, just a quick explanation. Authentication means you are checking your login email and password is correct or not. And authorization is that once you are logged in successfully, you are authorized to access to the some sort of resources in our application, like going to the dashboard or the ticket page. So these are the things. So we managed to do this in last tutorial. So as long as we have accessJWT token in our application, or we are logged in our state, we have, let's say, is login, so true here, we shouldn't be able to go to our login page like so. It should be automatically redirect to the dashboard page. And on the top of that, we need to work on our logout functionality. So let's work on that main thing first. First, I want to show you how we are using React Router DOM to wrap up the component. So let's make this one smaller. Let's go to our application again, which is the so our main entry page is the application.json, app.json. Here you see we are using, you might have already seen the previous tutorial. If you haven't, then I'll put the link for the tutorial series in the description below. So React Router DOM provides a lot of things: browser router, switch router, and link, and so on. So we don't need link here. Let's remove that. So here we can wrapping our whole menu inside the router, and we switching the route. So if we are just putting route like this, this is means public route, and we have created private route in the previous tutorial. So this is the component we created to wrap up our private route here. So let's say every time we come to our dashboard route, we go to the private route and we use dashboard as a child component, and we wrap up with the private route here. So what happens if we go to the private route? It takes the children component dashboard as a children here, props, and rest of the props comes as a rest here. What we are doing with the private route is that we are importing again route from the React Route DOM, and here we passing all the rest props here as it is, and we are calling a function called render that runs the anonymous function, where we can basically check is auth is true or not. If auth is true, then we do load our default layout, and then we let user visit to the dashboard page, like in our case here, which is coming as a children props. And if it is not logged in, then we go to redirect to login page. If you see here, we are passing is auth true hard-coded here. That's why every time, even if we are not logged in, we could go to dashboard page like that. But if we mark this one as a false, now we won't be able to go. See, it redirected back to us to login page. So if you try to go to dashboard, it will redirect us to the login page. So this is not this is what we need to do, but not with the static code here. So we need to grab this state is auth from our Redux state, and based on that is auth, we will decide whether the user is logged in or not. First thing first, let's grab this is auth here. So in order for us to use that grab that is auth from our state, we need to use something called use state from React Redux. So import that. Sorry, you need to use use selector. So we got that selector. So what happens? Let's go just under the form declaration. So here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get back to here in a second. So the use selector function provides us whole state, but we can select only some part of the state to return here, because we don't need all the part of the state, right? So to do that, simply access to our .login, because it's an object, whole big object. So we just want the login from whole state. So if we do state.login, now we will receive here login object only. But since we only need the is auth, we can destructure that here like is auth, like so. That means we don't need to import any other property here. So now we don't need this static is auth here. So just save the file. So what happens now? We got the is auth. So we need to let our component know that if is auth is changed, the component should re-render. to make our component re-render based on some part of our state is changed, we need to use something called use effect. Let's use that use effect just under this isauth declaration. So use effect will only invoke whatever we write code here once before the component is loaded. But if we pass some, let's say, variable here, some part of the state, and if anything changes on that state which we have passed here, the use effect will make whole component re-render again. So in our case, what we can do is, if it is auth change, then we can make the component load again. So since the application is loaded, our state is probably reset to default. As a single page application, every time you reload the application, it will reset all our state to the initial state. So if we have anything such as is auth true, it will reset to the initial state, which is auth false. Now if we log in dashboard, so dashboard, now let's say if we click this home is just let's go to the breadcrumb first. The home is basically taking us to the initial entry page, which is the login page. So when we are logged in, not only in the state, so because the page is refreshed, so we are probably isauth is false. But in the previous tutorial, if you go to the application here, we have stored our JSON web token in our session storage. See this one here? So as long as we have access JSON web token, we should be able to detect the user as an authorized user, so should be able to go to the dashboard automatically instead of we are hanging on the client login page. So here what happens, we are just passing breadcrumb here. So let me quickly show you. If you see, now we cannot go login because we logged out. Let's log in again. So if I click home, you see this person is going to load. That means whole page is loaded. So as a single page application, every time we reroute between the pages, we shouldn't load whole application. So rather we have to make internal transition. So to make that work, let me show you one thing first. If we go to our header.component to manage that thingy, let's see if we are logged in. So if now I am in the dashboard page. If I go to ticket page, it will not load. See, it will simply change the router. And if I go to dashboard again, it will simply change this one, but it does not load. So we could achieve that with the help of link container, which we imported from the React Router Bootstrap, and we have to wrap the function, the menu, the link with this link container like here, and pass the destination of the router. So I can simply copy that and go to our breadcrumb and just use this link to wrap up the home link tag inside the breadcrumb. So let's use link container and just wrap whole component. Now we don't need href here, take that out and make sure to change to, because it uses to, not href. Now if we save that, let's log in. Now it should not load the page, but now still we are redirecting back to the login page. So we should prevent that thing first. Let's work on that. So as long as each auth is true in our Redux store, in our login, true, or as long as we have the session storage has the SS token, then we should be automatically redirect back to the dashboard page. So to do that, we have to work on this client login component. Okay, let's close this for now and let's go to the login component here, and here call use effect here as well. And that we're going to do just below where we have declared the component, and let's use under this T structure from the stage. So let's make use effect here. Again, let's remove this boilerplate code. So we're going to need few things. One, we're going to need use isauth. So let's say if we have if isauth is true, right? Or we have, let's say, session storage dot get item. The item name is accessJWT. That should be as a string, guys. If we have these two cases, then we can redirect our application to the dashboard. So we can say history.push, and we pass the path to the application, which is dashboard. Okay, and dashboard here. So let me show you what's happening here. So the history is coming from use history hook, which is provided by React Router DOM again. So every time you do history.push and provide the path, so this path is the path you provide here, like after the application root URL, whatever comes after that. Okay, so is auth, we need to pass this one as a dependency here, and we also use history here. We need to pass that too. Save that. So okay, it should now actually it's wrapping automatically to these two, but we need to wrap this to condition in one case first, because if one of this one is true, then we push to our history, the dashboard. Okay, that's done with the login component. Let's go back to our private route, because it will not work yet, because it's like from private route trying to throw the application to login page, and from login page throwing back to the dashboard page. That's what happening here. So let's go fix that from our private route. So here we are just checking if it is auth or not. We is not true, because if you go to our state, application state, in our state now login is probably false. That's why it's trying to send the application into the login page. So instead of just doing that here, so what we need to do is, let's go to our use effect. So here what we do is that, so let's say for example is auth is false, but we have our JSON web token in our application local storage here, so JSON storage here. If we have that, we need to dispatch the login action creator from this component, so that we can update our login state in the Redux library here is true. So if we go to our login slicer, that's in our login slicer here, we have an action creator called login success that marks the is auth true. So that's exported here as a login slice as an action creator. Let's import that in our private route here. So I like to import functions and defaults on the top, and then the one that we wrote. So let's import here. The action creator is in the login component. Let's go to login, and inside login we have a login slice. Okay, from there we need this login success action creator. So in our use effect, okay, we are not only taking is auth from the state anymore. So we need to take, if it's not is auth, that means is auth is false, but has the session storage.get item. If we have this case, okay, we can just do inline. Now we can dispatch the action creator to mark it as a logged in. So in order for us to do that, we need to, let's see, import already. Okay, we need to import dispatch. Let me do first anyway, and then dispatch this function, not dispatch even, just dispatch. So we need to import use dispatch hook from React Redux, and let's define this use dispatch right under the function declaration here. Simply say const dispatch equals to use dispatch a function. So if we save that, now it's saying it's missing dependency dispatch. Let's make the dependency happy, and now save the application, and it should now update our state. Let's refresh the application. I think it might have gone too many loops, so let's stop the application and run quickly, just in case the application got code between ping pong between two pages, so I don't need that. Okay, now our application is loaded again. Let's quickly open our inspect Redux. So let's log in. Okay, now if we try to go back to our, if I click on the home, did you see that you can see like quick flash of the login page, and it will redirect us back to the dashboard page again. Let's try to go to the login page from here. So did you see that login, the action is triggered here, and the state is updated here, is auth is true. That's happening because of this one, because we do have the JSON SS token. But if I remove this one, and if I go to dashboard, so try to go login page, it will stay there. So that one problem is solved. Now if client is logged in, and if they go home, they shouldn't be in the login page anymore, should be in dashboard, regardless which page they are on. Even like in the ticket page, now if they go to home, now they will come back to dashboard page. Okay, one problem is solved. So what about the other problem, which is if we are logged out? Cannot log out because it's not updating few things. The first thing is okay. Session storage is updated, but our is auth is still logged in. I think is true. So let's work on logout then. Let's not check is auth at the moment. We only check if the session store, if we have a token in our session storage. So we don't need that actually. Just save that and everything should work fine. Let me try to log in. Okay, we are logged in here. So if I try to go to home now, we will redirect back to our dashboard page regardless from which page. Okay, but now if we log out, now there you go. Yeah, we should be able to log out. If we go to our application session storage, we don't have any token, so that's why we cannot go to any of our private router. So this one is sorted as well. Now there is a problem. So we don't have a session storage JSON web token, but we do have a refresh JSON web token. So in that case, as long as the refresh token is valid, the user shouldn't have to log in again and again. So we should be able to use this refresh token to fetch the refresh token and update our state or our local storage and then update the application. So we need to do that too. So let's quickly go over what we did here. So in our login page, in our login component, we are simply checking whether we have accessJWT web token in our session storage or not. If we already have that in our session storage, we will simply redirect our component, our page to the dashboard, because we assume that the access token is valid and user is authorized. So I don't need this one. Let me delete that and save it. And when we go to the private route, which is basically wrapped all the application in our app.js, all our private pages is wrapped within the private route. In our private route, what we are doing is that if we have a session storage as the token, we dispatch login as success. So we don't even need this one here. I forgot to remove that. Save it and application should work. Now let's log in. Okay, if we try to go to dashboard again, sorry, the login page again, it should redirect to our dashboard page. Yes, that's fine. But if we log out and try to go to the login page, sorry, dashboard page, it should protect us not from letting us go there. Okay, yeah, that's what we did here. And here we are just rendering based on the, if authorization is true, we render the child component which we wrapped in the private route from our application here, app.json, and otherwise we redirect back to the home page, which is entry page, which is the login page. Authorizing user is done, but to make the user experience better, as long as the refresh token is valid, we need to be able to redirect user every time they revisit the site within the expiry date of the refresh token. They should be able to go to the dashboard automatically. Okay, let's work on that. So to do that, first we need to know what's the URL endpoint to get the refresh token. Let's go to our server application, this one here. Let's see if we have any get refresh token. There you go, we do have get refresh token. So what happens, let's say, let's do login quickly first. Let's say if we are, where is the login? Okay, I just want to log in because I need the refresh token. So if we have a valid refresh token, and if we pass this one as authorization header to our get refresh token here and send it, now we get the access token, valid access token. So we need to work with this URL endpoint and get this refresh token and store in our local storage, sorry, session storage. I want to just copy this link and just minimize that, and we need to send the authorization header. So where we're gonna work is that I think we have API folder, yes, where the user API. Let's make that API call in our user API here. So what we're going to do is, let's copy this fetch user and then modify that. Okay, let's fetch user here and let's call fetch accessJWT, or let's say new accessJWT, and on the top here, this is our endpoint we need to call to. So let's say const new accessJSON web token URL. So that would be root URL plus we only need, I think only need token here. We don't need anything else. Just remove that, and let's use this URL endpoint in our XCO call. So okay, let's come from top. So here in our fetch new access token, we are going to return as a promise, and since we're going to use wait for the XCO call, we need to define as a async, and we always have either resolve or reject from the promise. So I'm running everything in the try and catch, so in case if we have an error, we reject the error message. And in here we need to get the access token from our storage here, local storage. To do that, let me close the side. To do that, instead of using session storage, we need to use local storage.get item, and we need to provide the name. So in our case we have CRM site, but here we have object. So we need, this is as a string, as you can see here, this is stored as a string. So we need to parse that. So let's do JSON.parse. When we do parse, now we will have this whole value as an object. Let's close that. And now we will get the refresh JSON web token. Now we can basically destructure here, and now we will have the refresh JSON web token if there is any. So if there is any problem, definitely it's gonna throw an error. So okay, that's done. That means now if we don't have the refresh token not found, we just reject that. And after that, definitely we need to call the XCO get method. Okay, now we need to update the new accessJWT web token URL that is in here, and in the authorization header we pass this refresh token instead now. So let me console log here as well, just to see. I'm gonna do response.data here. Before we do anything, if you go user login, I want to show you something. So what we have done before was that as long as we get the login successful, and whenever we have that login successful coming with the access token, we have stored them in our session storage. We can do that exactly here. In here, just right after the rest is coming. Let's check how the data is coming, and then we work on that. So I'm going to call that one from the private route. Let's just invoke one time only, and then see what's coming. Save that, and it's in private route. Let me make it smaller. Now it should be in our console, and if I invoke the dashboard, okay, this is the console we are getting from. So okay, basically if status equals to success coming, we have access token, we can do that. So basically what we are, let me close the side, what we are doing in our login function here. So that means I can simply just copy this if part code down here right after our response coming back from the XCO. See, when we did console log res.data, this object is printed. So that means res.data has the status, which is success. In that case, session storage.set item is now we need to set the accessJWT web token, and which is now inside the res data, and that's the access token. So we don't need to do the local storage part this time. So we save that. When we save that, every time we log in, it will update our the application here in our session storage. So automatically done here, and then we response. Actually, we don't need to response data. I'm just gonna response true here, just to know that, just send the indication that it succeed, otherwise reject false. Before that, I wanted to check one more thing. Let's send the invalid token and see what's the message is gonna come to application, actually in console. So I want to send the invalid token here instead of sending valid token. Where is it? Instead of sending a valid token here as authorization, let's invalid. So basically I turn that variable into the string. So if I save that, so when you send the invalid token, let's say the token could have expired, right, even though refresh token. So in that case we need to handle as well. So the message we're gonna get is 403. Let's see what's the actual message gonna be. So maybe just to dot message, and if I save that, let's see the dashboard. Okay, request failed with status 400. So if we have this message here, if statement, if we have the error dot message equals to this string, then we need to remove this refresh token which in our local storage because it's expired. So 403 means the token is invalid. So that when we have a next round visiting as a dashboard here, it should send the request. So it should force client to log in here. So let's remove that. So the way we remove that is simply say local storage dot remove item now and pass the token like so and save that, and here simply response false in our case, just to sending the indication. So I don't need this message anymore. Save that. What happening is, let's check. Okay, now if we try to go to our dashboard, the token, this one should be removed. There you go, because token was invalid, it's removed. Okay, great. In our state everything is normal. Now we need to force sign in. So since we are sending the false and the true, so let's catch that event false and true to update our state so that application know that there is a new token, refresh new access token in the session storage. Now client should be able to redirect to the dashboard page. So that should be done in the private route way we have. So we just call here, let's handle this one, that here. What happens with that, we cannot run here say const result equals, we cannot use await in the use effect. So the way you use that is if method invoke immediate function. You can do that. There are a couple of ways you can do. You can create a function here, another function, and then run that inside it, or call as a immediately invoke function. To do that, let's create a function maybe here, call const let's call it update accessJWT. We'll take no parameter, and here we're going to call the anonymous function, and here now you can call async like that, and inside you can do wait here. So from this function we are returning true or false. So let's say if it is true, that means if result is true, then now we can invoke the dispatch the login success function here, right? And we call this function right under here. Okay, now that should make it work. And let's go back to our application again. Okay, let's copy this URL. So if we open a new window, and if let's say go inside our dashboard straight away, let's say we're revisiting page after let's say 2 days. In that case, because currently in this browser we don't have any access token or refresh token in the memory. So let's say if we just visit to this site now, we should automatically redirect to the dashboard page, because refresh token and we do have an access token, we managed to store that, but application is not re-rendering the component because application doesn't know that there is a new state in the application. So if we go to our Redux store, now is auth is true. Remember before in the login form, I think earlier I said we don't need that, but yeah, we need to provide is auth in the login form just to invoke the re-render process. So if we go to our login page, yeah, initially we had is auth earlier and we thought we're not gonna need it, but just in this case we need it. So let's use this is auth and provide in the use effect. Go to the use effect as a parameter of inside this array. Just let login component that okay, when the is auth is updated in our state tree, make sure to re-render the component. Then use effect will understand that there is a access code. Otherwise, what happens if I just simply do this? Let's go to the application again. If I remove this token here, so if I refresh this token, you will see, okay, even if I go to the let's say dashboard, so if I hit enter, let me remove that and then refresh, put the token again. Did you see that the application loads before the token? And so once the token is loaded, we need to re-render the, because this one causing our is state true, is our true in our state, but we need to again re-render this component so that we can detect this the access token is in our session storage, so that we can push to the dashboard. So just put this one back here again, save the application, and now if we revisit into the new tab again, so if we have a valid token, we should be able to log in. So let's say if we don't have a valid token, let's invalidate the token. Let me go to again to the API here. I think this is the one, fetch user, no, the fetch access token here. Let's say send the invalid token, this one. And if I try to go to the new window and try to load the page, it will not load. Only it loads when we have a valid token. As long as we have an invalid token, it deletes the token from the memory. So let's log in. Now we have the valid token. Let's go to the new browser, try to go dashboard. There you go. Now we can go. So if we try to go to the home page from here, it will always redirect to the dashboard page. That is done as well. And if we log out, now we shouldn't be able to go dashboard page. Okay, we are not logged out properly. Now let's work on logout. I think logout is in the menu, so it's in the header component. Here, remove accessJWT token. If we go to our, let me close the entry page. So when you log out here, and if you try to go to, what happens whenever you log out, we are removing the SS token from our session, but we do have a refresh token. In order for us to completely log out, we want to remove the local storage refresh session web token, and also we can remove the token from the server as well, so that we invalidate the tokens. So let's go to, okay, let's go to logout first quickly. Again, go to the header component. Instead of only removing item from session storage, we can do local storage dot remove item. So we need that CRM site. Yeah, if I save that, and now if you look at here, let's go back to dashboard. Now if I do, okay, we do have a token in local and session storage. If I do logout, the both of the token are removed. If we try to go to dashboard, we are not allowed to go to that dashboard because we are protected, because we protect the route so that unauthorized user cannot access to that. So this is not enough to log out, so we need to invalidate the token from server side as well. So if we go to our REST API here, we do have a logout endpoint. We have worked on that. There you go. So in our logout endpoint, all we have to do is just call this URL endpoint with the delete method, and make sure to pass the authorization key. That should be the SS token. Let's call this logout endpoint. So let's go to our front-end application and go to the user API, and here let's say logout user. Let's make a new function. Okay, user logout already here actually. That means we can call this, already we work on the, I think probably previous tutorials, can't remember. So what is happening here is that we are creating a function called user logout. It's we are using await here, that's why we're doing async here. So we have to, as you see in our API before, we had to call the delete method to this endpoint, right? So that's what we are doing, delete method to logout URL. So that's user/logout, which is defined here, user/logout, and here we are passing headers, the authorization header, which is session storage.get access item. So what it does is it will call this API endpoint and removes the token from the server. So that way we are safe even if you are logged into the system from somebody else's computer. So simply we call this the API call, since we don't need to receive any feedback really, because I think that really not needed any feedback here. So we still run in the try catch in case if there is any network related error, we catch the error and just simply log out. And let's simply call this one in our header component in this log me out function, which is here. Let's import that. So import, go to the API folder and go inside the user API, and we need to import this user logout function. And before you pushing to the entry page, the login page, let's call this function and do so and save that. Now let's quickly do the test one more time. So let's start fresh up. I'm gonna delete that. Okay, open this one. We still have everything in there. Let's log out. Now try to go dashboard. Cannot go dashboard. Let's log in. Yeah, we could log into our account, and let's say we revisit the application, after a couple days, we are able to log into your account. Great. Our user authorization part is completed here. So what I'm gonna do is, let me quickly check in console if there is an error that need to be fixed. So okay, login. Okay, seems there is no error. I'm going to commit this change in our stage. We did a lot of coding here just to git add all git commit. I have said user authorization added with React Router DOM, JSON Web Token, and Redux. I'm just gonna keep that much so that you can check that commit change to check your code against mine. Okay, that is done. So okay, this tutorial getting longer as well, guys. I was initially thought that we could implement the user authorization and also load the data for the dashboard tickets, at least to do that. But I think I'll continue recording this one, but I'll split the video. So let's separate the video that we did so far for the user authorization, so that you have one video for user authorization only, and the next one I will do the fetching part. Like in dashboard, we will update all the ticket here, the dashboard data in the ticket, we will list the ticket here, and then add new ticket. We will connect our backend server to update the ticket and then display in our ticket list. I think that integrating all our API endpoint we'll do in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you liked the tutorial. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up down below. And in the next tutorial, as I said before, we are going to integrate all the backend API to fetch the ticket, fetch the data for the dashboard, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.